All right. I just woke up about, I want to say about 30 minutes ago. Um, I already drank everything there is to drink in here, so there's no water. The best I could do if I really get desperate is I got a can of cut green beans here, and I could probably drink green bean juice, but that just sounds good. Anyway, my eyes are wanting to be all crusted closed this morning, and I already got a bunch of crap out of them, and my throat is. I'm not sure if y'all have ever been to Nebraska during allergy season. It's everywhere. I mean, we got weeds of every sort and bloom all at the same time, and they just kick it across. That's all right. That's actually not what this video is about, is it? All right. So this video is about confidence. A lot of y'all, you say, you know what? I'm going to teach my kids different. Then you show them one thing and you tell them another. What you've done is you've separated part of that into the realm of fiction and part of that into the realm of reality. Which part is the realm of fiction? The part that you said, because what you showed them is different. People believe what they see. Well, for the most part. That doesn't always mean that you should, though. However, for the sake of this here argument, which isn't an argument, um, the first time I ever made anything blacksmithing, it wasn't much. I made a nail. I was watching a show and I really liked what was on the show. And I watched all of the episodes of it. And most of the stuff that was in there, like I already knew how to do it, you know. One thing about folks who are autistic, we tend to watch the same thing a lot. This is one of my favorite shows. So they were showing how to make nails. And one of the people in it, her name is Ruth, she talks about how traditionally in a blacksmith shop, it was a woman's job to make nails. Um, that's something we might not think of a woman's role today. But we don't have to live by gender roles. And that's what we're really trying to get at here is that if you and your farmer's wife want to live with a corset and bonnet and out there on a buckboard behind a couple of mules, those of you who know what those things are, well, you are probably Amish or very similar, you know. A buckboard is on, that's on your, not trailer, what's the word I'm looking for? Your buggy. That's what you sit on. Most of the ones that we see on TV are being pulled by horses, but I've seen Amish folks that pulled theirs with mules just because when I drove through Missouri, I saw some Amish folks. I didn't think they had Amish folks in Missouri. What's the point about Amish folks, right? Well, when I made a nail, I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to make a nail, and I made a nail, and I went, well, I can blacksmith. Now, if all I ever did was make that nail, that would be fine. I have the experience in doing it to know that I can do it, and that at least is something. That gives me confidence for later on when I have an idea and I have a whole pool of ideas that I know work in actual reality. And just because of that one nail, that is one experience that I have that I know that it's something that I can work with. It's something that is a possibility or a go-to. Um, see. I'm not sure if this will come up. I guess there's 6 episodes. This one right here, it's called Secrets of the Castle, Why Build a Castle. I'm going to put a link over here. Most of the stuff that's in that first episode, I know how to do. Everything in every episode after that, nearly everything, I know how to do. I know how to make. I have experience doing so before. It's kind of like when you're a kid, everybody makes a little bowl, and in the 80s, those things became ashtrays. Like, no matter what you made for your parents, it was a fucking ashtray. But pump. All right. I know I say a lot, so a lot of people have been pointing that out to me, or have pointed it out to me in the past. And I was just thinking of that, and right as I thought about that, I thought about a drum roll, and it just all hit together. That's a lot of the way that my brain, when I look at a lot of this stuff that's out there, I can put a lot of different things together, but not if I don't know how to do them. You know, I can have 10,000 suggestions on how to fix your internal combustion engine, but the fact is, I am not a mechanic, and my theories on that don't mean buckets. If I made my own engine, then I would know what I'm talking about. I would make sure that I knew what I was talking about, but I'm not going to go crunching numbers on somebody else's stuff, especially since a lot of the stuff that I come with is, well, really good ideas. But I'm not trying to sell my ideas here. I'm trying to sell you guys on the belief that you guys can do just about anything as far as learning goes. When I went out and I wanted to learn how to do a lot of this stuff, I didn't get to go to college. A lot of the stuff that I wanted to learn wasn't stuff that you could learn at college. Also, a lot of it was stuff that was dependent on having a good back, but that's neither here nor there at the moment either. With this show right here, The Secrets of the Castle, they're building a castle in France, the old-fashioned way, quarrying the stone, the old-fashioned methods, the old-fashioned machinery types. I mean, they're doing it the old-fashioned way. They're making their own mortar. They're cooking their own lime, which is what's used to lime, which is used to make mortar, which is, of course, what holds your bricks or your stones together, or just use it as cement and put some fill in. And it kind of functions as both. On the outside, so it's actually, instead of a 4-meter thick wall, or a 4 yards, I guess, is approximate for Americans. 4 yards thick of a wall isn't actually 4 yards thick of a wall. They build 2 walls that are 4 yards apart, or 3 yards apart, and then they fill in everything in the center with cement. And it is cement. You're putting large stones in there. You're basically, yeah, it's the same way you do cement. You just do it with smaller aggregate. And aggregate is the small stuff that you put into your mortar. It's the coarsest stuff that you have, though. Pebbles are sometimes used. It's basically just filler. There's different types of aggregate, and the best ones are the ones that don't expand or contract much. And that's why those are the ones that are usually recommended, and why those are the ones that people who work with cement usually use. If you have experience making cement, even if it's just a small batch, then all you got to figure out how to do is how to collect it naturally. And you don't have to do this. You absolutely don't. But it's kind of like with the Boy Scouts. I was never in the Boy Scouts, but I've had a few people tell me that in the Boy Scouts, when you go earn a badge, you do it. You know, if you're getting your derby badge, then it means that you're making a little car, and in order to make that little car and run it in that derby, you have to get the kit for the car and make the car. If you never make it, then you don't get your badge. It's kind of that I'm talking about badges that way, especially with all the times I've said badge previously to this and what it's about. And I know the Boy Scouts are not exactly in like Flint right now. They're and that's a weird thing. I got that from, I think I got that from Austin Powers. Thank you, Mike Myers, for corrupting my mind. It's all your fault, and everything from here on in is all Mike Myers' fault as well. If everybody gets the super flu and they turn into flying purple pigeons, that's all Mike Myers. But the thing that I'm trying to impress upon y'all with this big long rant is that people learn what they see. Children learn what they see. They will repeat what you said, but they're going to do what you did. So when you say you can't do anything to change it now, you just have to teach your kids a better way. No, you can't teach your kids a better way unless you are being that better way. If you make excuse day after day after day why you can't, why it's too tough, why your circumstances are too screwed up. Keep in mind that your circumstances are probably more screwed up than your parents' circumstances were, and their parents before them. And all of those circumstances going all the way back, they were pretty severe. And everybody likes to talk about how severe it was in their time. But now we're getting to the point where you remember back in the day that it was not right that people should have to work so many hours, right? Like working 60, 70, 80 hours in the mines. There's people that I know now who are working like 170 hours a week. Or not 170, 120 hours a week. And I'm like, how can you even work 120 hours a week? Is that even possible? Well, actually, it is. Another thing people don't think about is if you are a single parent, then you are pretty much doing that anyway. The amount that it costs to take care of kids, I mean, we make it so that parents, first of all, they have to go to work. But then let's say it's a parent of an autistic kid, and that parent of an autistic kid has to come up with almost $30 an hour for childcare for an autistic child. And then they have to find a job that pays them at least that plus taxes, you know? And there's a lot of different disabilities too, a lot of them. The thing is, a lot of these folks who are disabled, it's not that they're not capable of doing anything, it's that they have to have the right environment. Like, I know that Jeff is pretty darn good with woodworking, but I also know that he had to get into a woodworking shop that was up 3 flights of stairs. He could never make it. And 3 flights of stairs, no elevator, definitely wouldn't make it. I mean, that's just, you're going to have to carry him up those stairs. Or somebody's going to have to be mean to him and tell him he's got to crawl all the way up the stairs and pull himself up while we maybe carry his wheelchair. And that's just a dick fucking move, isn't it? So it's a good thing that he's got that garage and he gets to work on the stuff that he gets to in the privacy of his own place. And then he gets to build confidence the more he does these things, the more confident he is. I talk about how I'm probably one of the few people that I know, or few to exist, who could walk up the mountain stark naked and walk back down in a suit of armor a year later. But that's not to say that it would be a good suit of armor. But the reason that I'm able to do it is because I learned what materials do what, where to find those materials, and I learned a lot of the properties of those materials so that I could actually do those things. So that I could start off, if I moved to a place and it was just dirt and I didn't have any tools, how could I build? Let's say I'm in the Rocky Mountains and it's full of dead beetle kill pine and rocks, and digging is going to be nearly impossible because it's around the boulder area and there's a bunch of tiny rocks in the soil. You get your shovel half an inch into the soil and it's stopped by a rock that's only that wide. Dink! Fuck. So, yeah, I could go up the mountain with just my skin. I could find rocks. I could find sticks. I could make the stone tools and use the stone type technology until I was able to harvest everything that I need in order to smelt down some iron, which would actually only be a few days. Once you know how to identify the stones and you know the stones in the area. A lot of people in Boulder don't realize that they could actually make their own iron tools just by taking some of the rocks that are a little bit bigger and crushing them down, or taking some of them rocks off the side, smacking them a few times with a hammer and throwing them in. But you also got to be allowed to do those things. Like 2,000 years ago, going outside, if you were a Germanic tribes person, going outside and building a kiln today just because you want to would be fine. But today, yeah, no, not so much. All right, we need these permits and those permits, and these are your designated burn days. And then also, in order for you to be able to make any decent money at it, you should probably try to start a business where other people can use your kiln, because there's other people who want to use kilns and can't afford them either. But then there's smelters and there's bloomeries and there's all sorts of different stuff that if you learn it, you can watch people on YouTube videos, and a lot of people on YouTube videos can show you better than any book will, because they're going to show you hands-on as they're doing it. They're getting the hands-on experience stuff. You're not. What you're getting is a visual memory. If you're getting a visual memory, that will help you later on when you want to do it. But then again, you have to figure it out from your point of view. And then you have to figure it out based on what your purpose is in needing these materials, and your purpose in, like somebody else might have made a fish hook and you need a nail. This is all stuff that really doesn't take much. Once you've seen somebody do it, you can go out and spend 20 minutes on a rock in your backyard with a chisel. You'll probably need a chisel for future stuff, and you've probably got other stuff that you've got there that you can just hammer down into a chisel or grind down into a chisel and give it a try. You may not do great, but once you've given it a try, once you've done it once, you can do it again. You already have that confidence to do it again. If you have ever made a brick out of rocks just by shaving them and cutting them down by hand, and you've made the block that you wanted, it doesn't have to look perfect. You're going to put mortar in between it. But if you're able to do something like that and you have actually got the hands on doing it, that right there becomes something that you are confident that you can do again. It's not in the realm of fantasy. This is now a reality. This is now in Sean's repertoire of things that he can do. And a lot of those things I'm not able to do anymore. And that's not even entirely true. I am capable of some of these things over shorter periods of time. And there are other things that I can do that are just really painful. Like my lower back is constantly in pain. So hammering probably not going to happen. My knees hurt, my hip hurts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff after everything that the police put me through that just straight up doesn't work right. But all of it is messed up because of my back. So, well, all of the problems are amplified because of my back. So swinging a hammer and trying to make stuff that way isn't something that's going to be in my near future, but I do have the stuff to do it. And I have other people who want to learn how to do it, and I don't mind explaining to them and showing it to them. I do know that a lot of times when you have to do stuff on your own and you've never done it before, you might end up with a different idea about things than you first started with. My dad, the first time we ever went and got crabs up there in Washington State, if you're in Washington State, you can throw stuff off the end of the pier and pull crabs up. You can eat them. They're cheap. So that's more getting into survival, and what I'm wanting to talk about isn't necessarily survival, but in those situations, yeah, it's important to know how to do those things when you need them. But it's also important when you want them, because you might want to go all the way to the store to buy something that you've already got, and you just don't realize it. And really, what I would like to do is to get people to educate more, to educate each other, to educate themselves, to put some experience into doing these things. And you're gonna screw up. I guarantee it. Every single person out there is gonna screw up at some point. Nobody will do it perfect. If you want to do it perfect, do it perfect. Oh my God, I have to write that down now. That guy's name is Alex Steele. And I am going to, I liked him better when, here, I'll pick the Forge build in specific. I liked him better when he just did tools. But let's see. Here's one. This one's actually how to make a ball peen hammer. Let me tell you about my first ball peen hammer. I had a ball peen hammer, and I took it and I put it in a mold that I made myself out of local dirt. It wasn't a very good mold. And then I took that metal and I melted it. I took a coffee can and I built up the inside with was it plaster, not plaster of Paris. There's a name for it, but it's French and I can't remember it at the moment. Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean to French people. But anyway, it's an actual size coffee can, and then on the inside, I've only got a hole this big, and that's what I'm trying to melt this down in, and without a crucible, by the way. But I was able to melt it down, and I was able to pour it into my mold, and I was able to make a ball peen hammer based on the ball peen hammer that I just melted down. I had to add a couple of welding rods to it, and they gave it kind of in parts of it, a glass shiny finish, which is weird. But that ball peen hammer still worked when I left. It was actually weird to me because my other ball peen hammers, I wiped them all down and sanded them down so they'd be shiny and oiled them, and they actually rusted before it did, which is pretty cool. I got pictures of that on my Facebook too. With a stone axe, and you can literally make a stone axe by smashing two stones against each other until one of them breaks. and then you've got an edge on a broken rock, and you can use that for making stuff. So if you know how to do that, you can cut down trees, you can make stuff that you can stab animals with for dinner, or cut plants for dinner, or whatever else. But it all comes down to actually taking the time to give it an effort and try it. I've found that when it comes to hands-on stuff, in the real world, which is what everybody's lacking. Everybody knows how to tell somebody to go fucking shove a carrot up there, whatever, in texting. Everybody knows how to, insult people over the internet. I mean, these are our skills today. These are our marketable skills now. Can you asshole to somebody on the internet? Yes, I can. All right, you got yourself a job. Is this our manual labor expertise? Is this our manual labor force? Pretty much now, it's getting to be. The first time that I ever tried to do a casting, the stuff that I poured out that I thought was a piece of metal was not a piece of metal, it was the slag, which is pretty cool to know. I didn't realize that till I tried to work it, and it shattered into a million pieces. I know what that is. A lot of the stuff that I try, like on the internet, I'm not good with the internet. This is foreign to me. The world that I live in, this is what we had in the 80s. This is what I grew up with. This is, you grew up with real stuff. It wasn't pixels, it was stuff. And the stuff that was pixels was mom's, and you didn't touch it. Pixels, that's, video games, Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt. There's a few times I did get to play Duck Hunt. That was the game that us kids was like allowed to play. We were allowed one game each, and then it was time for bed, which was pretty cool because then you get all riled up looking at the dog laughing at your older brother or your little brother or your little sister. But it wasn't very often that all four of us were all on home leave at the same time. The experiences that I had, that Natalie had, that a lot of other people have had in the system, I mean, that's really what you guys aren't seeing here. When I say that this is absolutely happening to Black people, it is. And it's happening to others too. I am not going to say we need to ignore what's happening to Black folks around this nation right now or around the world. We absolutely need to not ignore it. Those are our rights. And by ignoring our rights, just because it's someone else's rights who are being violated, we're opening the door for our rights to be violated. We're teaching our kids that, yeah, actually, son, if you join the military, you're not going to be fighting for freedom. You're going to be fighting for the government. But that's an action. What you're telling your son is that same fucking rhetoric that goes all the way back. Let's make it not rhetoric. Let's make it the truth. I don't mean like change history. I mean work on the future by building a better world. We can build out of the world that we are on. We don't need to put 10 million different chemicals in this stuff. We don't need to put compressed carbon crap, this, that, and the other in everything. We don't need to destroy all of this stuff because it takes so many resources when really, I mean, how much of a carbon footprint does it take to dig a ditch? And I'm not saying we should live in ditches. What I'm saying is every part of building the castle, every part of building a house, every part of building adobe or stucco or cement or carpentry. Every bit of that is something that you can learn. If you learn enough to use a saw and to use a hammer and to use a nail, then you've got skills right there that you can use to do other things. Me, I know how to make drills out of stuff in the woods, though, because I learned how to make the stuff in between the bark and the tree into rope or string, things of that nature. And then once you learn how to make tools later on, and you learn how tools are made, you get it in your head that it's got to be made out of electricity. You know, if there's no power to run it, it's not going to work. No, it can be human powered. You can learn how to do that. You want to talk about taking care of yourself? Do you know how to work with that electricity?